Well, it's the only way we know how to do it because we have feelings. Yes, and those feelings revolve around the fact that Sami Zayn is the new United States champion, and that little kid from Belgium got an apology, disrupting maybe the greatest supervillain origin story that's ever happened. Welcome to a Notsam Wrestling emergency podcast because, yes, we have feelings on the Smackdown before Clash in Paris. Smackdown that was happening in Lyon, France, by the way. A very noteworthy, I would say, episode of Smackdown. Crowd was great. No surprise there, as they had a lot to live up to from the last time WWE was there in Lyon. It's going to be very, very interesting to see if the crowd in Paris can match that crowd in Lyon. But a lot to go over. Now, we're going to talk about Sami Zayn winning the United States Championship from Solo Sikoa. We're going to talk about what could be next for Sami Zayn, what should be next for Solo Sikoa, the fact that the Tag Team Championship is now happening at Clash in Paris. But first, the biggest news of the night happened in the first segment. And that was the fact that that little Belgium kid was back in the house. Now, look, I decided to wait until after the American broadcast of Smackdown before this emergency podcast went up, but I had to see it. I was watching on a VPN, if I'm being 100% honest. I had to see it when I saw the videos go out on WWE Social. That little kid who John Cena was hell-bent on ruining was going to be there after he was there in Brussels, that he was going to be there in Lyon, France, too, and who knows? Who knows if WWE knew exactly who he was and decided that we need to get him in the house if we're going to be in Europe? Who knows if he was getting tickets anyway and the WWE sniffed it out and made sure he had an aisle seat? Who knows if he just had an aisle seat and they were like, hey, we got to do something with this? I would imagine that they would have to have had contact with this kid, right? The amount of times he was viewed on all of their social. If I got as much mileage out of that little Belgium kid as I got, I could only imagine. I would think that there was some kind of contact, but regardless of how it went down, the little Belgium kid was back in an arena that John Cena was in for the first time since John Cena said that you are the reason that I'm going to ruin wrestling. And that little kid, decked out head to toe in that Belgium John Cena gear, his heart was broken, like he was Ralph Wiggum in slow motion on VHS. To see him back, still in the Belgium John Cena gear, I wonder if he's taken it off at all since he first put it on. He showed up with a sign, WWE posted it on their social, that said he had forgiven John Cena. But there was nothing to forgive him for yet because John Cena had not apologized. The question is, was John Cena's babyface turn legitimate? And we thought we were going to get that answer in the match with Cody Rhodes. We thought that the fact that he wrestled Cody Rhodes and he wrestled as a babyface and he wrestled with all of his ability and then he lost in an honorable way. And when he lost, he handed the title to Cody Rhodes. He gave him a hug, whispered those words of encouragement into his ear and raised Cody's hand as the champion of the WWE. We thought this meant that John Cena was a confirmed babyface, but no. There were still things that he had to make good on. He couldn't just tell us that he had thought better of his actions. He had to tell the people that those actions affected, mainly the Belgium kid. He goes out into the audience. He's having this great promo battle with Logan Paul. And Logan Paul doesn't know what he's up to. And John Cena says, shut up, Logan Paul. Let me do what I'm doing. And he goes out into that audience and he finds that little Belgium kid. And he says, I'm sorry for the way that I treated you when I was having a bad day. Thank you for being there for me when I needed you the most. And he looked right at him. And that kid, and I think it speaks more to a generational problem that we have, that kid was about to have a real moment with John Cena. And he just kept going, wait, say it again, my phone's on, say it again. He had his phone covering his face. The poor cameraman there in Lyon was trying to angle so that he could make sure that you could see the face of the Belgium kid and John Cena both in the shot without the kid's phone being in the way. But I'm sure the kid got a hell of a video of it. I mean, he could have just looked for the television broadcast, but you can never be too sure. What if it wasn't on television for some reason? What if it got cut and then he never had that video again? Well, he got the video, that's for sure. And I do wonder if this is ultimately like a disruption of a super villain origin story. If you know how, like, you know, you can't, once the supervillain is a supervillain, you can't go back in time and stop it from happening because of the butterfly effect. If you go back in time and stop it from happening, then everything that happened after you went back in time now gets disrupted, and who knows, maybe something much worse happens. But if you realize you've created a tiny little supervillain from Belgium and that you can stop this from happening still, you wonder if John Cena did that. Or is that kid going to grow up and is he going to say, look at my cell phone video, see, John Cena and me are cool? Or is he going to say, wait, maybe he's going to get smart to the business and he's going to say, wait, did John Cena use me as a tool to convince people that he was a heel? Or is he going to say, wait, John Cena put me on this pedestal and the Sam Robertses of the world made all this content at my expense. I'm still a supervillain. I think that if this kid goes to wrestling school, he's still going to be able to use this one day as either being a babyface or a heel. You know, he can either be a babyface and say, look, my hero thanked me for being there for him when he needed me the most, and now I'd like to pay that forward. Or he could say the first part was true, the second part was baloney. I didn't believe it. And now I'm here to extract revenge on anybody who ever loved that man. I don't know. I just think that, like, the fact that there's this kid, and for the longest time, I thought that kid, who turned out to be a young lady, who was at SummerSlam 92 saying the British Bulldog is going to win whether he wants to or not. I thought that was, you know, had to be the most famous kid in wrestling. But now, the fact that this kid is so cosmically linked to John Cena, and not just any John Cena, but John Cena in his retirement year. This kid is cosmically linked to John Cena first turning heel, because it was very early in the heel run, and then confirming that he was back to being a babyface because it was mid-promo battle with Logan Paul. There's just something to the fact that you have now, I mean, and that's the power of professional wrestling. You've affected people to the point where it can change everything. And to me, the fact that you have this important era in wrestling right now that we'll look back on and we'll discuss, right? Regardless of whether you think it's been a net positive or a net negative, a success or a failure, this is a year that we will look back on and discuss for eons and eons and eons. And the fact that this kid is so now cosmically linked to all of it, I just feel like is something that is going to come up later in life. Now, as far as the promo went with Logan Paul and John Cena, first of all, no mention of Brock Lesnar. And you got to imagine, I mean, if I were John Cena, I'd be like, hey, I'm conscious now, and I'm back on SmackDown. Hey, Nick Aldis, what were you going to tell me about Brock Lesnar? Remember, Nick Aldis was like, I talked to Brock Lesnar, and then Logan Paul knocked John Cena out cold. You'd think John Cena, now that he's conscious, would be like, hey, first things first, let me find Nick Aldis. What was it that you were going to tell me about Brock Lesnar? But we didn't hear about the Brock Lesnar stuff. We focused more on the Logan Paul stuff. And I thought John Cena was pretty brilliant. You know, John Cena was pretty brilliant talking about Logan Paul not being a disruptor, but being a wannabe. Talking about himself as a disruptor. And you could argue that John Cena, it's hard to call him a disruptor when he was, you know, kind of a corporate champion for a lot of his run. But I think he would respond with, well, I became a corporate champion because that's what I became. But my road to get there was a disruptive road. I was not built to be this. It just happened. And then once I became the champion, I was a disruptor because the fans didn't think that this was what a champion should look like. The fans didn't think that a champion, I was a babyface, but the fans still booed me. Or a certain section of the fans anyway. I was a babyface, but I wrestled my whole run in jorts. I was a babyface, but I debuted that spinner title. That promo that he said, people said it was a toy. That's all true. So there are definitely arguments on either side of John Cena being a disruptor. But I liked that he brought up the list that came out, because I had seen that list and I was just looking at the list. I saw it on Instagram or something, and it was the list. I don't know if it was Time or whoever it was that put out the list of top 25 creators is what it was. The top 25 creators, and he's right. Kai Cenat might have been number 1 or 2. Drewski was right up there in the top 3 or 4. I think Mr. Beast was number 7. But neither Paul brother was on the list at all of full 25. So John Cena starts painting this picture of the fact that, look, you're not here to give us the rub. We're here to give you the rub. You're not here to boost up pro wrestling. He said, you're here to be saved by pro wrestling. I think I wrote down, he said, Paul is wrestling. Logan Paul is wrestling so he can save himself. And then, I thought that Logan Paul did not exactly rise to the occasion of what was in front of him. Because, again, this is going back to John Cena being disappointed dad John Cena. It's my favorite John Cena. It's the scariest John Cena. It's the John Cena we can all relate to the most, which is the John Cena that is not mad. He's just disappointed. And we did a podcast with Big E that went out on the WWE's YouTube channel, I think, yesterday or the day before, where Big E said he had to deal with this version of John Cena when he and a group of people were playing Clash of Clans, and disappointed John would come around the corner, and you'd have flashbacks to your childhood and your father being disappointed in you. You didn't do that right. I mean, his brutal, pinpoint precision truth that he hits you with is the type of stuff that makes it so that you have to switch up your game to match his, because his is making that impact. You know what I mean? I could see it being like, nope, I'm going to play my game, and I'm not going to go along with what John Cena's doing just because he's John Cena. But you go along with what John Cena's doing because the fans have decided, nope, I like what John's doing. I'm going to go along with him. And Logan Paul, in his retort, goes back to like wrestling stuff. Like John Cena had hit him with human stuff. John Cena had hit him with, you're not on this list. John Cena had hit him with, you're using us. John Cena had hit him with, you're not making wrestling better. Wrestling's making you better. This is what wrestling is saving you, because otherwise you're becoming irrelevant and you're only in the headlines for the wrong reasons. And it was like, I'm hitting you with reality right now, whether it's true or not. That's how it came across. And Logan Paul went back to the sort of like, oh, well, you said this and now you're saying that. Went back to the sort of wrestling, well, you were a heel before and now you're a baby face. I don't believe you. And it's like, man, I wish Logan, like, if John is cutting deep, figure out a way to cut back deep. Figure out a way to bring up the fact that, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately for Logan Paul, John Cena is doing very well in Hollywood. The new John Cena show is out on Max right now, Peacemaker. And I actually just last night finally watched the new Superman movie, and John Cena had a great cameo in that. So maybe the problem is that Logan Paul can't come up with something to hit John Cena back with, but he should be able to. I mean, Logan Paul can sit there and be like, John, like, how come in one fight I made more money on pay-per-view than you did in 20 years? And I don't know if that's true, but, go back to the Floyd Mayweather fight, or go back to his relevancy as compared to John Cena's relevancy, or go back to I don't know, figure something out. So that now it's like you've got some reality instead of, because otherwise, you ain't hitting John Cena back after everything that he just laid down on you. And so, yeah, but I mean, I think it'll be a great match, but I do think it's a definite John Cena victory on his way to a Brock Lesnar match. And we'll see if Brock Lesnar's in Paris or not. The other thing that went down was, of course, the end of a feel-good Smackdown. Sami Zayn wins the United States Championship. Solo Sikoa is out there with all of his MFTs, but Jimmy Uso and Jacob Fatu come in, even the odds, bring the match down to one-on-one, and Sami Zayn, much to, I think, a lot of people's surprise, honestly, Sami Zayn wins the match. Sami Zayn is the United States champion. And I think that that's really good, man. I think that, and for Sami Zayn, it's really good. For Sami Zayn, this is very good. Because if Sami Zayn had as much trouble as he had winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Like he was saying for months, I'm going to win that title. He didn't. He came to SmackDown and said, okay, I'm going to try for the United States Championship. If the United States Championship had been just as difficult for him to get as the World Heavyweight Championship, then you're in a position where Sami Zayn just says stuff. And you can't believe that this is going to happen for him. But the fact that Sami Zayn came in with an expressed goal, and when it came down to one-on-one, when the fight was made fair, Sami Zayn won the championship. And you ask, why was Solo Sikoa and Sami Zayn not on the PLE, not at Clash in Paris? Because it could main event a SmackDown. It ain't main event in Clash in Paris, but it main evented SmackDown in Lyon. So Sami Zayn is the United States champion. And I've got to say, like I said, I think it's a good thing. I think Sami Zayn's a great babyface. I think it's time for a refresher on Sami Zayn and all parties involved. That's to say, I think that Jacob has done enough, where Jacob is not really in the hunt for the United States Championship anymore. And I had said that before. When Sami Zayn came in and said, I'm after the U.S. Championship, I said one of the things that makes that good is that Jacob is not bogged down by chasing Solo for the United States Championship, and he can be boosted up. I mean, the minute he showed up on the show tonight, France was going crazy for him. Every crowd is going crazy for him. I don't think that you want Jacob Fatu as one of 6 in this sort of United States Championship story. I think it's time to start elevating Jacob Fatu and start elevating him quickly. You know, I don't know if you're going to turn Randy heel, because that was the other thing. You had the conversation, you had the promo between Drew and Randy. I think that there is because Drew specifically said that Cody was not Randy's friend. And Drew is never wrong. I feel like eventually we're going to get to Randy Orton as a heel, and Drew was right all along. But I think that leaves you with some pretty big heels. I think that leaves you with Randy Orton as a heel. I think that leaves you with Drew McIntyre as a heel. And I think your big baby faces turn into Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, and Sami Zayn. And your big heels are Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, potentially Randy Orton, and then Solo Sikoa is going to come up. But listen, we watched Solo get beaten by Roman Reigns. We watched Solo get beaten by Jacob Fatu. We watched Solo get beaten by Sami Zayn. Once the MFTs are out of the way, Solo gets beat. We've seen it happen a bunch now, to the point where it's a regular thing. I feel like there's nothing in the story that would tell me that Solo Sikoa should get a rematch for the United States Championship. There's nothing in that victory that made me feel like, yeah, but you know what? Sami Zayn's champion now, but wait till Solo. No. And even if he does get another shot at Sami Zayn, we already saw that play out with Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu won the United States Championship. Solo took it from Jacob. We can't now have Sami win the United States Championship and Solo takes it from Sami. Sami is the United States champion, and I think he should be the United States champion. But I think it's time to kind of clear the deck. I think you've got to separate Jimmy and Jacob and Sami as a they can still be friends, but as a group, separate them and have the MFTs doing something else. Because what you're getting is comparisons to the bloodline. As long as it's Solo and his group of Samoans and Tongans, and Sami and Jimmy and Jacob, you're not going to get away from comparisons to the bloodline. And this isn't the bloodline. The bloodline was the biggest story in wrestling at the time, and some would say the biggest story ever in wrestling. That's a different conversation for a different day. But that's not the story that's being told with the MFTs. That's not the story that's being told with Jacob and Jimmy and Sami. So instead, I'm hoping that we get Sami Zayn now and we start to build a crop of not only, like I said, world title contending heels, but now that you've got a mid-card champion babyface, build a strong crop of mid-card heels. I think Carmelo Hayes splitting from The Miz, now that they've lost their number one contendership, it's like split up that tag team And I don't even know, do you really need to do Melo versus Miz? Or can you just move on and have Melo and Miz separately be United States Championship contenders? I mean, like, I know on paper it is what it is, but the story of Sami Zayn and this young guy, Carmelo Hayes being like, Sammy, look how long it took you to just win the United States championship. Look at me, #1 draft pick, Andre Battle Royal, this, I've done that. And like, Carmelo Hayes is that new kid that's going to take it all from Sami Zayn. What about The Miz? You don't think The Miz and Sami Zayn could tell an amazing story together? You don't think, I mean, Sami Zayn and The Miz is probably as close to Daniel Bryan and The Miz as you're going to get in terms of being polar opposites, in terms of Sami Zayn being like, look, I'm one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And The Miz saying, no, I'm one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And I'm sick of everybody saying that you're one of the best wrestlers on the planet. I think both of those guys right there in matches with Sami Zayn would be awesome. And then you turn around and go, okay, well, what are you going to do with the MFTs? That's easy to me, okay? Have the Wyatt Six get through the Street Profits, which is going to be a Clash in Paris. And honestly, I would have them retain the Tag Team Championship, but they could win or lose the Tag Team Championship. And honestly, doesn't even matter. But what did Bo Dallas, who interestingly enough was not wearing the Uncle Howdy mask on SmackDown, what did he say to the Street Profits? You call yourselves family, but you're not brothers? We are family. Everything about the Wyatt Six is family, 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 family. We are blood. We are family. What faction that also has 4 members is based on family, even though they are not blood related? Some of the members are, I guess, Tonga Loa and Tala Tonga are related. But in terms of the group, neither of them are related to Solo Sikoa. And none of them are related. Out of those 3, none of them are related to JC Mateo. I think you have the Wyatts come in and take out the MFTs. And I think that you use the Wyatts to really beat down the MFTs, to haunt the MFTs, to shake them to their core, to the point where they're broken. And then the MFTs have to rebuild. And you just see this mean ferociousness coming out of the MFTs. And that's what it takes to overcome the Wyatts. And you can tell this story over the course of a few months because the Wyatts keep getting the upper hand, keep getting the upper hand. The Wyatts like decimate them, like old school Wyatts, like what they were doing to Chad Gable. And then eventually the MFTs are able to overcome the Wyatts. And they graduate from that story to maybe become something bigger and bigger and bigger, because if they can overcome the Wyatts, then maybe they can stand out on their own, completely separate from what the bloodline once was. If we can believe in them being ferocious enough to overcome the Wyatts, and believe in in how mean they are, and believe in how vicious they are, and believe in how dangerous they are, then we can start taking that group and moving them on to other things, and eventually, potentially, get either Tala Tonga or Solo Sikoa back into that position where you could look at them as a main event person. I mean, there was a time where, like, you were putting Solo Sikoa in main events. You can't do that anymore because you've been beaten too many times. But that's not a never thing. That's a right now thing. And I think having the Wyatt Six bring them down to base level, only for them to overcome them and then start building off of that momentum, then you've got something. And by then, now you're talking 6 months, 8 months down the road, maybe then you've built Solo or Tala or whoever it is into something that can actually go face to face with the monster that Jacob Fatu has become by then. Because Jacob Fatu is all upside. But I mean, like, for me, I'm like, what I hope happens here is you end up with a scenario where you've got the upper card and you can have these mega matches. You can have John Cena and Logan Paul and Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes and even the Drew McIntyres and Randy Ortons. But right under it is where you have to really put effort into creating characters and stories that people get wrapped up in, because those are the stories that are going to give birth to the characters that a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, end up in that top scene. So that's what I hope happens. And I truly do think that Sami Zayn as the United States champion can be the gateway to making all that happen. We will see. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I'm sure that I'm going to jump on right after Clash at the Castle to hit you with an emergency reaction pod, if not before. And then, of course, Monday morning, we'll drop the next episode of Notsam Wrestling. So keep it locked either on the YouTube channel, notsam.com, youtube.com/Notsam Wrestling, or across all audio feeds, Apple, Spotify, etc. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to do. It's going to be a fun weekend. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.